Sri Ganeshaya Namaha, Sri Saraswati Namaha, Sripada Vallabha Narasimha Saraswati, Sri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Dattattreyam Mahatmanam Varadam Bhaktavatsalam, Prapannartiharam Vande Smartrugami Sanovatu, Deenabandhum Kripasindhum Sarvakaranakaranam, Sarvarakshakaram Vande Smartrugami Sanovatu, Sharanagata Deenartha Paritrana Parayanam, Narayanam Vibhum Vande Smartrugami Sanovatu, Sarvanarthaharam Devam Sarvamangala Mangalam, Sarvakleshaharam Vande Smartrugami Sanovatu, Brahmanyam Dharma Tattvajnam Bhakta Keerti Vivardhanam, Bhakta Bhishta-pradam Vande Smartrugami Sanovatu, Shoshanam Papa Pankasya Deepanam Jnana Tejasa, Tapa Prashamanam Vande Smartrugami Sanovatu, Sarvaroga Prashamanam Sarva Pida Nivaranam, Vipaduddharanam Vande Smartrugami Sanovatu, Janma Samsara Bandhagnam Swarupanandadayakam, Nishreyasapadam Vande Smartrugami Sanovatu, Jayanamaya Shakkama Dhatur Dattasya Yastavam, Bhoga Moksha Pradasyemam Prapatet Sakrimave. Sri Ganeshaya Namaha, Sri Saraswati Namaha, Sripada Vallabha Narasimha Saraswati, Sri Guru Dattatreya Namaha.
Dharma Keerti. For a man who is totally detached from everything, where is sorrow for him? To him, praise and criticism are the same. He is neither defeated nor does he wish to conquer others. He will neither be an enemy to others, nor will he consider anyone as his enemy. He has neither sorrow nor joy. He is in the state of non-duality and equanimity. He always desires the good of others and dislikes no one. He always speaks the truth, as he has no need to speak what is untrue. His senses are ever under his control. After all, has he not given up all attachments? Then he is a true saint and the best among men. He becomes one with the Supreme Purusha. A wicked person never listens to anyone. He always finds fault with others. He promises to give but abuses you when asked. He easily forgets the good done to him. He is a slave to lust. Anger will be at the tip of his tongue. He thinks all others are stupid when he is the lowest himself. Therefore, Dharma Keerti, follow the footsteps of the best of men. Associate only with the good. Do not waste time with worthless persons. Do good and speak good. This is the highest dharma in practice. By following it, the non-dual state, as explained earlier, will develop gradually. The non-dual state is the fruit of the highest dharma. You should conduct yourself to be worthy of it. As the Lord's instructions flowed like the Ganga, Dharma Keerti listened to him with rapt attention. The Lord's words deeply moved him. Having listened carefully, he kept the teachings in his mind. Dharma Keerti took leave of the Lord and returned to his kingdom, where he tried to practice them to the best of his ability. He conducted many sacrifices and made numerous gifts. In addition, he taught the tenets of the Dharma Shastras given to him by the Lord to others who were competent and worthy of it. The fall. A king's life is very difficult, as he is more influenced by the wicked than by the righteous. In course of time, wicked persons posing as orators and logicians collected around Dharma Keerti, as the king was fond of preaching. He had the weakness of being impressed by perverted knowledge because he lacked discrimination. That is why he allowed them near him. He forgot what Lord Dattatreya had taught him. You will become like those whom you choose to have as company. This is exactly what happened with him. When he could not answer the questions put by them, he began to doubt whether the Lord's teachings were correct or not. In the beginning, he only thought that there might be defects in the Lord's teaching, but later it occurred to him that the Lord himself did not follow Dharma. In addition, he thought that the Lord's actions were hypocritical. Since I asked, he told me what he collected here and there. He does not have the knowledge of the Shastra necessary to decide issues concerning Dharma, he concluded. King Dharmakirti, having fallen into the association of agnostics, gradually even surpassed them. When it is the king who falls, who can stop him? In the course of time, he became a personification of the 7 vices. There is a saying, as is the ruler, so are the ruled. The king not only stopped the sacrifices, good deeds, and charity, but supported and rewarded infanticide, adulteration of the Varnas, the propagation of agnosticism, and other immoral activities. The inevitable happened. The king had to bear the burden not only of his own sins, but also of the sins of his people. Ultimately, he had a mountain of sins to bear the responsibility for. The invisible hand. At Sahyadri, Lord Dattatreya observed all that was happening, and the Lord was pained at the state of the king. Since Dharmakirti was a king, the Lord could not interfere. One day, King Dharmakirti desired to go hunt. It was the month of Vaishakha, a time not suitable for hunting. Since it had become his nature to do what came to his mind, he started at once towards the forests on the bank of the river Reva, taking with him his friends. At a certain stage of hunting, he just felt like killing without minding who or what is being killed. In this frame of mind, he did not know where he was moving, nor did he know where his retinue and friends were. Also, he did not realize that his past sins were dragging him in one direction and the Sadguru in another. His proud conviction was that all his success was due to his own might. If, by some merit, though earned in a previous birth, a person achieves some success, he naturally attributes it to his own intelligence only. So when great events were taking place effortlessly, the advisers by his side declared that it was due to the king's intelligence. No wonder that the king was deluded by it. When Dharmakirti realized he was lost, his horse was tired and unable to proceed further, and its mouth was foaming. The king also was thirsty, hungry, tired, weak, and about to faint. He did not know where his retinue nor where he was. The sun above was scorching the earth. A whirlwind began to scatter sparks of fire. When the horse was no more able to carry him and was about to break down, he did not have the good sense to walk either. Thus the horse walked on for a short while and then dropped down dead. As the horse fell down, the king sprained his legs. Even though the king was by its side, the horse died, deserted like an orphan. When he saw this, he was quite perturbed. Perhaps he too would have to die, deserted like that horse, and the death of the horse was a warning for him, he wondered. Only then he remembered the sacred feet of Lord Dattatreya. But the next moment he shook off that feeling and dismissed it as a superstitious and blind belief. First he had to quench his thirst, and with his sprained leg he moved with great pain in search of water. It was the area of the river Reva, and therefore he thought he should search for the river. From somewhere came a cool breeze, and he felt as though his strength returned. But Lord Datta willed otherwise. As he moved on, a creeper caught his feet, and he fell flat on the ground. The blow hurt his face so severely that he became immobile for some time. After a while, he recovered and resumed his search. Oh, to be hurt 3 times in a day! It is a hell of a suffering, he thought. But there is no such thing as hell. By the time he found the river, the sun was setting. With enthusiasm he had a cool bath and drank lots of water. Then felt that he was gripped by a new affliction. He felt a churning sensation in the stomach and had to vomit all the water he had drunk. Suddenly, he saw some dim lights which appeared to be nearby. It was Ekadashi that day, and some people were coming with lights to spend the night singing the praises of Lord Vishnu. When he understood that they were coming towards the river, he thought of asking for food. What if they knew that he was the king? The act of begging was new to the king. In addition, those people were far away, and he could not walk towards them. He was feeble even to shout loud enough. He realized that it was Ekadashi day and that those people were fasting and had come to the river bank to keep vigil in the night by singing the praise of the Lord. When he thought that it was Ekadashi day, he suddenly remembered the advice of Lord Dattatreya. Perhaps what he said is true, and these sages are observing fast on this day, and maybe I have come to this wretched state by disregarding these instructions. Perhaps I cannot live any more. His mind was full of remorse and grief. With no strength left in his body, he lay there helplessly. Hunger, thirst, and pain gave him no sleep. His eyes could see the waving of the lights. His ears could hear the singing of the people. As he was hearing the divine names of the Lord sung by great sages, his ailment aggravated, and he died in the early hours of the dawn. Father, Dharma Keerti's episode ends here, yet something remains. Please listen. The kingdom of Yama. Fierce-looking Yama, the lord of death, came and tortured him, and putting a noose around his neck, carried him to hell. He was made to stand before an even more terrible Yamadharma. Yama ground his teeth and asked Chitragupta, "What are his deeds?" Chitragupta went through his record hurriedly and said, "Lord, the list of his sins has no end, but there is a subtle issue of dharma involved. Though he killed an animal on Ekadashi day, he fasted completely and bathed in the river Reva. Then the whole night he stayed awake, and while listening to Hari Kirtana, he breathed his last on the Ekadashi day itself. According to the rules of Dharma, all sins are wiped out by the merit of fasting on Ekadashi day. He has to his credit the fruits of being awake and listening to divine names. Besides, the merit accrued by the touch of Lord Datta's sacred hands is an inexhaustible blessing, and in addition, he has acquired merit by giving knowledge to others. There is also a little balance of merit accrued by dharmic acts performed in his earlier days." Yama heard this, and his terrifying form at once transformed into a calm and enchanting one. Upon his signal, the servants came and removed the shackles, and Yama honored the king by offering him a seat. Yama again posed a question to Chitragupta. How did this man, who committed so many sinful acts, get the good idea at the end of his life? Lord, it was not his idea. Lord Dattatreya made him do so. Yama understood the situation when he heard this. Exclaiming that Dattatreya's compassion is boundless indeed, he folded his hands, closed his eyes, and meditated upon Lord Dattatreya for a moment. Then he turned towards his soldiers and said, "Soldiers, I have told you earlier, and I am now telling you again. Bear this in mind carefully. You should not interfere with those who are following Dharma. You should not even go near those who chant the names of Shiva or Keshava. You should not harm persons who observe Ekadashi fast. On Ekadashi day, all sins reside in food. It is said that those who eat food on that day will consume sins, so we have to punish them. We have no authority to punish a person who observes Ekadashi even once in his life. Take this fellow, for example. He did not willfully observe Ekadashi. With a crooked mind, he disregarded his preceptor and took to evil ways. In fact, it is our duty to severely punish such persons, but it is his good fortune that he has accepted Lord Dattatreya as Guru, although he became wicked. He left the Lord, yet the Lord did not leave him. He brought him to the company of the Lord's devotees. Hence he got the benefit of the Ekadashi fast. Therefore, you see how those who seek refuge in Lord Datta obtain his grace. Never go near the devotees of Lord Dattatreya. Remember this well. His sins have been destroyed by the power of the Ekadashi Vrata. Therefore, treat him well and take him to Vaikuntha, the place of Vishnu. When he heard these words, Dharmakirti felt as though his head was spinning. The arguments, such as whether the world you perceive exists or not, of his atheistic friends, came to his mind and made him sick. He trembled for having betrayed the Lord and felt great remorse. When he recovered, he immersed himself in meditation on Lord Datta and Srihari. People on earth crave for the enjoyments of the heaven, but heavenly happiness is insignificant and nothing compared to Vaikuntha. When his merit was exhausted, he was sent to heaven. Thereafter he had to return to earth when that merit also was exhausted. But he had still some merit left at his credit. It was the merit he had earned by imparting the knowledge he had received from Lord Datta to others. It had conferred on him the Lord's inexhaustible grace. Consequently, Dharmakirti then has taken birth in the home of a religious Maharshi devoted to Vishnu with the knowledge of his previous birth. Father, it is him whom you are now calling Bhadrashila. It is him whom I am addressing as I. Like this, I have experienced many bodies as I. Father, I have this recollection of past births due to Datta's grace. That is why all that I learned then is remaining with me now. Having this chance, in this body, I should tread the righteous path, which will sever the cycle of rebirth. It has become clear to me that even Vaikuntha is not permanent, not to speak of heaven. I can no longer bear this circling around. By the Lord's grace, understanding has dawned on me. I am disgusted with the cycle of birth and death, and I have finally acquired detachment. I must stop the rotation of this wheel of life. Father, it is my good fortune that Datta's grace is stopping this wheel. Father, I do not have the courage to waste even a moment of my time any more. Be aware of the fangs of death. I can hear the sounds of the ankle bell of Yama's buffalo. Nityam sannihito mrityuhu sampadatyanta chanchala asanna marano dehaha. Any time death may befall a person. To be born as a human being is very rare and difficult to obtain, and to be born in the family of a devotee of Lord Vishnu like you is rarer still. Somehow, by Datta's grace, I have obtained both. We should not forget that, while there is light, we should set our house in order. Devotion to Vishnu is the sole remedy for the ills of births and deaths. By worshipping Vishnu, all obstacles will disappear and the mind becomes pure. When the mind is purified, liberation is in our hands. Therefore, we cannot afford to be careless, even for a moment, in the matter of devotion to God. In this world, nothing can save us except devotion to Hari. Therefore, Father, by the blessings of Lord Dattatreya, I shall tread the path of devotion and thereby attain knowledge of the self. Father, this is the aim of my life. Please bless me. Hearing the story of his son, sage Vallabha was filled with joy at the glory of Lord Datta's compassion and congratulated his son. Thus, the story of Datta from beginning to end is a steady flow of compassion. We come across stories about him in many Puranas. Compiling them all is difficult. Besides, the more we say, the more remains to be said. We learn that the Lord performed penance for 3,000 years with his eyes fixed at the point between the eyebrows. But we do not know more than that. We do not know anything about the Lord's life. Sometimes he appears more orthodox than orthodoxy itself. Sometimes he distributes charities like a king. Then the next moment he goes out with a begging bowl. Sometimes he seeks caves and observes fasting and performs yoga. At some other times he wanders in the forests and chants mantras and worships the gods. Or he may go from house to house. At times he is a recluse, and at other times he behaves like a strayed person. He can be a householder, and he worships Srihari. He sometimes worships Shiva or Ganesha, the sun god, or Ambika, or some other deity. Once he went to Varanasi and established a Shivalingam to the south of the Vishweshwara Linga and another to the west of the Tripurantaka Linga, and sat before it like a statue for many years. That linga came to be known as Dattatreya Linga, and the pond nearby as Dattatreya Tirtha. There are authorities that say that both these places are a means for all kinds of prosperity. It is also said that the Lord had come to Srishaila Mahakshetra. Once he appeared before the sages of the Naimisha forest and granted them salvation. Such incidents of blessing the devotees are in plenty, and it is not possible to narrate all of them. Incarnations. According to the determination of Brahma, and as a consequence of the great penance of sage Atri and Anasuya, Dattatreya, combining all the aspects of the Trinity, incarnated for the sake of his devotees and is ever engaged in protecting them. There are stories which show that according to the level and eligibility of the devotees, the Lord manifested in many different forms and kept track of his devotees and saved them. As the age of Kali began, human beings became mediocre and dull and incapable of seeing with their own eyes the true form of the Lord. They failed to realize the principle of Guru Dattatreya, and they lacked the capability to see his real form, nor to understand his philosophy. Thus, even though the Lord is ever near and appears before the deserving and blesses them, he has become unattainable to most. But the Lord's mercy and love are unlimited. He goes himself to his devotees if they cannot reach him, and for those who cannot climb to his heights, he comes down to their level. He assumes many forms in the course of time, and according to the period, place, and circumstances, and lifts his devotees to his own heights. We do not know the number of manifestations he has assumed. Let us just look at one or two among the many he took for our sake. About 550 years ago, in the state of Andhra Pradesh in India, in a place called Pithapuram, Lord Dattatreya incarnated as Sripada Sri Vallabha and granted liberation to thousands of devotees. Incarnation as Sripada Sri Vallabha. Long ago there lived a Brahmin called Raja Sharma in Pithapuram. He was learned in the Vedas and righteous. His wife was Sumati. Those who observed her conduct and devotion to her husband said to themselves that perhaps the ancient Sumati had reincarnated. The righteous couple was very devoted to each other, but in this mundane world there is no house without any deficiency. Though many children were born to them, most of them did not survive, except two of which one was lame and the other blind. What kind of problems the couple had, one can easily imagine. In spite of their great affliction, the couple never failed to discharge their religious duties, nor did they blame God. They had abundant devotion to Lord Dattatreya. One day the annual ceremony for the mains was to be held. The food was ready, but the Brahmins had not yet come. Just then an ascetic came to the door and chanted, "Bhavati bhikshan dehi." "Madam, give me alms." Sumati was startled. Her husband was in the backyard, and there was no time to consult him. Therefore, without a thought of what her husband would think and do, Sumati hurried to the door and gave alms to the ascetic outside. There Lord Dattatreya was shining before her eyes in his true form. As she prostrated to him, he told her to ask for a boon. "My lord, for a woman, is there any greater boon than having children? My womb has been burnt many times. If I give birth again, the child should be like you." This was Anasuya's wish too. "With your great compassion, please fulfill this extraordinary wish." With a loving smile, the Lord said, "Can a devotee's wish be ever extraordinary? Your wish shall be fulfilled without fail. A son will be born to you who will be revered by the world. But, mother, he will live with you only as long as you do not oppose his wishes and his ways. Be cautious." Then the Lord disappeared. Sumati reported all this to her husband and said, "As Lord Datta came in person, I gave alms. Has it affected the Shraddha ceremony?" Her husband knew the essence of Dharma. He was immensely pleased with what happened and congratulated her. When the Lord has come in person and accepted the offering, then all the three worlds have been satisfied. How could the mains then have any dissatisfaction? However, to comply with the custom of the world, let us cook fresh food and perform Shraddha. As time passed, a son was born to them. The astrologers were dumbfounded when they saw the child's horoscope. The palmists were filled with wonder when they saw the signs on the tender feet of the child. Therefore they named him Sripada. The boy grew up like the moon in the bright half of the month. Upanayanam was performed when he was 7 years old, and the Vedas were taught to him. How long could this play of learning go on for him who knew everything already? He intuited all knowledge. There was nothing the school teachers could teach him. The boy was born a master in the 14 kinds of arts. Eventually the parents thought of his marriage. Seeing this, Sripada said, "Father, please do not make such attempts. I consider all women on earth as my mother. My desire is to become a yogi and tapaswin and follow the path of self-realization. Also, you will achieve fulfillment in life on account of me. Please do not stand in my way." Mother Sumati was shocked to hear his words. She recollected the words of Lord Dattatreya. Fearing that he would go away, she said in tears, "My son, all our hopes depend on you alone. With 1 foot we are already in the forest. Your brothers are handicapped, and we have relied on your support. How can you forsake us now?" Sripada smiled and looked at his brothers with blessings. The lame brother regained his ability to walk. The blind one regained his vision. Not only that, learning and discrimination dawned on both simultaneously. They were able to recognize Lord Datta in their brother, fell at his feet and worshipped him. Sripada turned to his parents and said, "Mother, both the brothers are now learned and capable. Their lineage will follow Dharma, and all will be well with you. You need not worry any more. So, permit me to leave now." The parents could not object any longer. The Lord then left on a pilgrimage. On the way he blessed many devotees who were worshipping him and granted them yoga siddhi, and after visiting Badarikashrama came to Gokarna Kshetra, where he stayed for 3 years and saved many devotees. Afterwards, he went to Sri Shailam and spent 4 months there. Then he slowly moved along the banks of the Krishna river and reached the village of Kurugaddi near Raichur, where he stayed permanently. The miraculous deeds performed by the Lord for the sake of his devotees are numerous. Once, a devotee was carrying a lot of money to be offered to the Lord. Thieves robbed him on the way and killed him by hitting him on the head and took away all his money. Then the Lord appeared on the spot with a trident and killed all of them and brought the dead man back to life. A poor washerman was an ardent devotee of the Lord, but he was afflicted with poverty. Sripada blessed him with kingship. However, the washerman was pained at the thought of losing the company of the Lord. And then the Lord said that the washerman would become a king in his next birth, and that he himself also would assume another incarnation and give him darshan. There is an episode which is quite unique. One day, when Sripada was on the bank of the Krishna river, an old widow and a youth with a body strong like a bull were weeping profusely and walking into the river. The Lord saw them and called them. Hesitatingly they came and prostrated to the Lord, saying, "Sir, you seem to be a great divine person. We are sinners, driven to commit suicide to escape poverty. Please grant us the boon of a good place after death." The Lord laughed. "All right. First tell me why you want to commit suicide." The old lady narrated her woeful story. Her husband had been a learned man, and after many years this sturdy fellow was born to them. But he was stupid. Due to worry on account of this boy, the father died. The son was so dumb that he could not even beg for alms. For his sake, the old lady, in spite of her widowhood, had to go begging to survive. The neighbors and villagers were scolding the boy. The mother and her son could no longer bear this suffering. Therefore, they had decided to commit suicide. Sobbing, she said, "If one has a child, it should be like you. Otherwise, one better be barren. Of what use is such progeny as I have? O Lord, this is the only desire I have in this life. Bless me with a son, at least in the next birth, who will be respected by the whole world. Please, permit me to die now." The Lord smiled and said, "Mother, why are you so desperate? There is a religious vow called Pradosha Shivaradhana Vratam. Do you not know that Lord Krishna was born to Mother Yashoda because of the performance of this religious vow? You too should perform that ritual, and a son like me will be born to you." Sripada then explained the mode of performing this ritual in the prescribed manner for the future. She understood, but unable to bear her sorrow, she continued to say that she would die. This evoked pity in the Lord, who placed his hand on the stupid boy's head, and the boy forthwith began to chant mantras from all the 4 Vedas continuously. The mother was shaken and fell at the sacred feet of the Lord, who blessed her and the son and sent them away, reminding them to perform the vow of Shiva Pradosha. Gradually, people understood the greatness of the Lord and considered him an incarnation of Lord Vishnu and began to call him Sripada Sri Vallabha, incarnation as Narasimha Saraswati. The old woman who performed the Shiva Pradosha Vrata was born some time later as the daughter of a learned Brahmin in Karanja town in Maharashtra. She was married to a Pandit named Madhava. The couple became famous as great followers of Dharma. By the tendency inherited from her previous life, the wife, even in this life, performed the Shiva Pradosha Vrata without fail. When she was 16 years old, she gave birth to a beautiful child. The child was born chanting Om loudly. All in the house were amazed, and those who saw the boy's horoscope said, "He must be Parameshwara himself." The parents protected the child with amulets and raksha charms to ward off the effects of evil to the child. They named him Narasimha. Though he was a tiny baby, he needed large quantities of milk and kept wanting more. The mother was young and under confinement and unable to bear the strain. One day she told her husband, "Dear, my milk is not sufficient for this child. Would it not be good if we got a wet nurse for the baby?" The boy perhaps heard these words as he laughed heartily and playfully touched his mother's breast. To the astonishment of the mother, milk then oozed out profusely from her breasts. The flow of milk was almost too strong, and now the child sucked its heart's content. The mother was happy and relieved. Nobody should know about this incident, she thought, because evil influence might affect the child. Narasimha's childhood passed happily, but when the child was 3 years old, he still could not yet speak. When he laughed or cried, it was the one word Om that he uttered. His parents doubted if he was born dumb and therefore began to make enquiries. Time passed and the boy reached the age of 7. He understood the silent suffering of his parents one day. The miraculous child touched a piece of iron and it turned into gold, which greatly surprised the parents, and they feared even more now that the boy could be affected by evil attacks. They took the boy inside and gave another piece of iron. That also turned into gold. He glanced in all 4 directions, and all the iron pieces in the house became gold right away. When the stunned parents recovered, they asked, "Son, who are you? We believe you are a great soul incarnated for our good. Why do you not speak? Have we committed any mistakes?" They pressed him to speak to them again and again. The Lord expressed through gestures that he would talk only after his Upanayanam had been performed. The happy parents then made elaborate preparations for the thread ceremony. The people of the town wondered why they made so much fuss about the Upanayanam for this dumb fellow, but the parents were unperturbed. Only they had witnessed the greatness of their son. When Upanayanam ceremony took place, the father gave Brahmopadesha. But how can the dumb utter mantras? He chanted within himself. The father told him to stop this when the relatives mocked about it. The time for seeking alms, bhiksha, came, and mother was asked to give alms to the boy. The chief priest himself uttered, "Bhavati bhikshan dehi." At once, the boy in a stentorian voice began to chant Rigveda mantras commencing with Agnimile Purohitam, and after Rigveda mantras said Bhavati bhikshan dehi. All those present were stunned. The trembling mother gave him bhiksha. Then for the second time the boy began to chant Ishetvas and chanted Yajurveda mantras, and then begged alms from the mother. Bhavati bhikshan dehi. Then for the third time the miraculous child chanted Agna ayahi vitaye and recited from the Samaveda and ended with Bhavati bhikshan dehi. All the residents of the town were impressed by this flood of chanting of the 3 Vedas. They remarked that this boy must be a great incarnation. There was no limit to the joy of his parents. A few days after the thread ceremony, the boy approached his parents and said humbly, "You have given me alms. I want to go on a pilgrimage, receiving alms from all mothers. I have chosen the path of renunciation. Please permit me to leave." The mother wept out of her mother's love, but it was not new to the Lord. He was used to it ever since he had been the child of Mother Anasuya. The divine boy consoled his mother in many ways and also gave some spiritual instructions to her. Then slowly the mother calmed down and became peaceful. "Mother, You will get 4 more sons. They will all look after you well. Life is not permanent, and furthermore, this is not the only life. Many births have gone. Since you have performed Shiva Pradosha Vrata in your previous birth, I was born as your son." Then he touched his mother's head. All of the events of previous births passed before her eyes. She saw her dear son Sripada Sri Vallabha also. Overwhelmed by devotion, she fell at the Lord's feet. The Lord, as her son now, said, "Mother, do not reveal these mysteries to anyone. Now permit me to take sannyas." Even though she had gained more wisdom by now, saying farewell was still impossible for her. She said, "My darling, did you not say that 4 more sons will be born to me? You must stay until at least one of them is born. You may leave afterwards." The Lord replied, "Mother, why only 1 son? I will stay until not only 1 son, but 2 sons are born. But then you must promise not to stop me then any longer." She consented to this gladly. Exactly 10 months later, twins were born to the surprised mother. After a couple of months, the Lord asked his parents for permission to leave. It was difficult for them to withhold their consent now, yet hard to let him go. The parents were not like Atri and Anasuya after all. Such a detached state of mind was, to their regret, not yet theirs. The son consoled them. "I will appear before you whenever you think of me." Giving this promise, he somehow consoled them and left on a pilgrimage. Many people escorted him, but he sent all of them back after a while. He saw his beloved parents following him also, and once again blessed them with the vision of Sripada Sri Vallabha and sent them home also. When the Lord reached Varanasi Kshetra, he undertook rigorous penance. Kashi is the abode of many spiritually accomplished souls and great munis. Those great men who saw this playful Lord were attracted to him and realized right away that he was not an ordinary ascetic, but a complete incarnation of Lord Dattatreya. They took a great interest in him and became devoted to him from the depths of their hearts. And all his devotees gathered and after some deliberation approached the Lord, accompanied by an aged and wise ascetic by the name of Krishna Saraswati. They pleaded, "Sir, you are none else than a great incarnation. In this Kali age, monkhood has fallen into the hands of weak persons and is being distorted. Therefore, please accept the life of an ascetic sannyasi and thus save the order of monks. You are above castes and class, dharma and adharma, sin and merit, and beyond the triads. For the sake of the welfare of the world, please accept the holy order." As the purpose was to elevate the world, the Lord acceded to their appeal. He was only 10 years old then, and the saint Krishna Saraswati, who initiated him, was 100 years old. Yet, in his heart, he worshipped this boy as his guru. But the Lord, wanting to maintain the tradition, became his disciple and got the name of Swami Narasimha Saraswati. The Lord, who accepted monkhood at the age of 10, became popular as Apara Shankara. Great sages considered Sri Narasimha Saraswati as their guru and worshipped him. The Lord remained in Kashi for some time and then proceeded on a pilgrimage to bless devotees in other places also. He helped and favored innumerable individuals on those trips. He reached Badarikashrama and circumambulating Mount Meru, he reached Prayag. So wonderful and varied are the stories about him that one cannot describe his greatness in words. At every step, a miracle occurred. It is difficult to collect all the details to present them in writing. Besides, who can do justice to the greatness of such a saint? In Prayag, he initiated many prominent sannyasis, Among them were Bala Saraswati, Krishna Saraswati, Upendra Saraswati, Madhava Saraswati, Sadananda Saraswati, and Jnana Jyoti Saraswati. Later he came to Karanja, his hometown, and gave darshan to his parents and stayed with them for some time. He blessed many devotees and manifested many divine miracles. He visited many homes for bhiksha and assumed many forms to be present in different houses simultaneously. From Karanja he went to Nasik Kshetra. The miracles the Lord performed here were soon more impressive. A man suffering from unbearable pains in his abdomen was about to commit suicide. The Lord went to him and made him eat some sweets and dispelled his pains. Once a Mohammedan king was about to kill a Brahmin employee. The Lord entered the mind of the Muslim king and made him change his decision and thus saved the Brahmin. The Lord left the devotees and started again until he reached Vaidyeshwara Kshetra and stayed there for some time. The Lord can hide himself, but he can never hide his compassion. He conferred learning and knowledge on a dull person and blessed a noble householder with a treasure by his mere glance. He set right another person who had turned away from his spiritual preceptor. Manifesting his miracles, the Lord reached Amareshwara and settled secretly under an Audumbara, a fig tree. Then 64 yoginis who were devotees of Amareshwara secretly worshipped him. The residents of that place also had a taste of the Lord's kindness. A woman was possessed by an evil spirit which hindered her from having children. The Lord drove away the spirit and blessed the woman with children. When the child born to her died, the Lord even brought it back to life. From Amareshwar, the Lord reached a place called Gandharvapura, situated at the confluence of the rivers Bhima and Amaraja. He moved about unknown and secretly and elevated hidden yogis. A barren cow, which had become useless and was being used to pull a cart, was blessed by him out of compassion for the owner of the cow. Now it yielded milk in abundance. This revealed the Lord's power to the people. Gradually the Lord's fame spread. The ruler of this area approached the Lord and became his disciple. He pleaded that he would build a mutt where the Lord could stay permanently, and the Lord agreed for a certain purpose. The miracles manifested by the Lord in Gandharvapura are infinite. It is impossible to mention them all. He brought many dead devotees to life. He blessed an old woman with progeny and made a dry tree sprout with tender leaves. He gave a feast with 1 handful of rice to thousands. The devotee who had been a washerman in his previous birth was born as a Muslim ruler and approached the Lord, who remembered him. The Lord visited his home and blessed him. Thereby men of various castes and faiths and many heretics gathered around the Lord. To his chief disciples, the Lord announced that he would end his incarnation soon. When the disciples cried, the Lord promised that he would appear daily before the steadfast devotees and console them. Accompanied by a few important disciples, the Lord reached Sri Shaila. He had a flower boat made and sitting in it, rowed it against the currents in the Krishna river. He was steering the boat and then suddenly he disappeared. No one knows what happened to Sri Narasimha Saraswati. It is the compassionate nature of Lord Dattatreya to take upon him new incarnations to save his devotees. The auspicious name of the Lord Datta itself is most powerful and can remove the sins of the Kali age and bestow on the devotees fruits of merit both here and in the hereafter. Lord Datta will be ever present in those men and women who have the best of samskaras and who purify their intellect so that the Lord can manifest to them and bless them again and again. There cannot be a heart which will not be moved away by the meaningful stories of Lord Datta. The more one hears those stories, the more blessings one receives, and the true form of Lord Dattatreya will reflect more and more clearly in the mirror of the heart. He consecrates himself in the heart temples of his devotees, and they can experience his grace abundantly. The life of individual man who thus experiences the Lord will become sublime, and he will ultimately attain endless and peerless happiness and bliss. Such is the compassion and mercy of Lord Dattatreya. Sri Ganapathy Sachchidananda Swamiji. Chapter 1. Introduction. Sri Ganapathy Sachchidananda Swamiji is a simple, kindly, quiet man with a long white beard, an enchanting smile, and sparkling eyes that probe deep into your soul. He is affectionately called Swamiji, the revered holy man, or Appaji, revered father. He gently touches our lives with peace and harmony regardless of who we are. He is above religion and language. He communicates through love, silence, and music. He travels the world treating it as one close-knit family, his family. His healing music is the binding force. He draws his energy from the inexhaustible source that creates and nourishes this universe. He removes our worldly difficulties, whether they are in the form of disease, poverty, or mental distress, and expedites our spiritual growth. Does his name have any significance? Yes, of course. Ganapati represents the syllable Om, the sound which is the source of creation and of all spiritual knowledge. Sat is existence. Chit is consciousness. Ananda is bliss. Swamiji's name, Ganapati Sat Chit Ananda, stands for everything that is, was, and ever will be. A Sadguru is the Supreme Master, capable of lifting one to the highest spiritual level. All these are words in the ancient Indian language, Sanskrit. To Swamiji's followers, he is not only a spiritual guru, but also their very best, most intimate friend. Here are some of their personal experiences.
The plane was going to crash. We were so frightened. I kept chanting Jai Guru Datta. It made a safe landing.
I never listened to music before, but now I cannot live without Swamiji's music.
I was about to commit suicide. Swamiji saved me. He gave me back my life.
As long as I continue to serve Swamiji, I know that he will take care of me. I have seen it happen.
Anytime I run into a problem, I tell Swamiji about it in my own heart. He sends me a solution right away. I know that he listens.
I never thought I would succeed in doing such difficult projects, but with Sri Swamiji's grace, success seems to come easily now.
I went through acute depression. Now I'm completely fine. I don't even take any medication anymore.
Since Swamiji has come into my life, I am much calmer and no longer get angry at small things.
Thanks to Sri Swamiji, I was able to give up smoking after a 35-year addiction.
I did not know Swamiji. The doctors gave up hope. I was semi-conscious. The orange Raksha from Swamiji was put on my wrist. Someone played Swamiji's bhajans for me. Miraculously, I recovered. This was 9 years ago.
Swamiji has hundreds of thousands of followers. The number increases each day. Swamiji accepts everyone in spite of his or her faults and weaknesses. He gives of himself to each person totally without any reservation. His love knows no bounds. His devotees are drawn to him like bees to honey. Swamiji says that one's karma or actions from the past determine one's present and future circumstances. However, the grace of a Sadguru can improve one's destiny despite an imperfect past. A Sadguru's compassion is beyond measure. Jai Guru Datta.
Jai Guru Datta.
Jai Guru Datta.
Ever wonder what this Jaya Guru Datta is that is heard when Swamiji or his followers are around? Jaya Guru Datta is a greeting exchanged among all of Swamiji's followers. This confirms their common faith in Swamiji as their spiritual guru. It bonds the devotees together in one big loving family. Jaya means victory too. Guru is one who dispels the darkness of ignorance and leads one to light. This guiding light reveals the purpose of our existence on earth as human beings. Datta is short for Dattatreya. Datta means gift. Datta manifests as a gift to mankind in his various forms to bring comfort, encouragement, and guidance in the spiritual path. Datta is the true path of all religions and spiritual beliefs. Datta is an eternal, cosmic, conscious principle. Datta is all-knowing and all-pervading with powers that are infinite. Datta can assume any form at will to perform his mission. All the spiritual masters of this world since time began are forms of Datta. To truly understand Datta is beyond the comprehension of the human mind. Everything in this creation is fleeting. Every thought, feeling, action, and substance comes into being, has a brief existence, and then goes away. These three stages are referred to as the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. They are also referred to as the Creator, Preserver, and Destroyer. Datta is a combination of all these three aspects and yet rises above them to the source of creation itself. Swamiji explains this concept in the story Sri Datta Darshanam, meaning the vision of Datta. What is the relationship between Datta and Swamiji? The Datta principle has now taken the form of Sri Ganapathy Sachchidananda Swamiji. Chapter 2. Sri Ganapathy Sachchidananda Swamiji. When divinity interacts with us at the human level, it helps us to understand better what divinity means. That is why Datta has taken a human form as Sri Ganapathy Sachchidananda Swamiji. His body appears to be just like ours. He walks and talks like any of us. That puts us at ease and makes us comfortable to be in his presence. But soon we realize that he does not experience any of the common human ambitions, desires, emotions, attachments, or fears. His level of energy is phenomenal. He is not subject to the laws of nature. For example, he stands amidst raging flames and does not burn. For 30 straight years, every year during the Shivaratri festival, Swamiji has jumped into the 5-foot-deep holy fire pit in his ashram to worship the fire in front of thousands of witnesses. The flames leap several feet higher than Swamiji. Swamiji steps out of the fire pit looking fresh and cool, his clothing perfectly intact, the flowers in his garland very fresh. Swamiji can appear in his physical form in different places at the same time. He was in his ashram in Mysore and at the same time appeared in the home of a person in Germany who later became his follower. When Swamiji first moved into his ashram in 1966, the land was infested with cobras and scorpions. Swamiji slept under the trees on the bare ground with these poisonous creatures crawling all around him. He was never harmed. At times, Swamiji behaves like a normal human being. He takes upon himself an injury or an illness to suffer in place of his devotees. Swamiji's suffering always coincides with that of someone in a crisis that had received protection from Swamiji. Swamiji enters into people's consciousness the moment they think of him and listens to their troubles whether they are in his physical presence or thousands of miles away. He clears their doubts and gives guidance through heart-to-heart communication. When Swamiji is addressing the public, people in the audience receive different messages, each receiving answers to their own personal questions that are troubling them. He knows everyone's thoughts and responds to each one at their own individual level. Many individuals in a large gathering experience a direct eye contact with Swamiji. It is an awesome, divine experience. Swamiji transmits his divine energy to those who need it through such powerful glances. He frequently materializes healing substances that benefit numerous suffering devotees. Swamiji gives devotees sacred gifts such as rakshas, orange wristbands containing the root of the white arka plant, gemstones, and yantras or talismans that provide powerful protection from danger. Amazing things happen in Swamiji's presence. He is childlike, divine, and unpredictable. Swamiji is multidimensional. He is a musician, a composer, a linguist, and a poet. He is a doctor, a teacher, and a psychiatrist. He is a spiritual master and a miracle man. The list is endless. Swamiji's musical compositions contain spiritual messages, powerful seed syllables, catchy tunes, and a unique resonant harmony.
అంజనం మతపసు చేసి నిన్ను ఫలముగ పొందెను ఆంజనేయని నామము జగతికెల్ల మంత్రము ఆంజనేయని నామము జగతికెల్ల మంత్రము.
His deep, pleasing voice and his dancing fingers on the synthesizer create an irresistible experience that entertains, comforts, enlightens, and heals.
Om Aim Hrim Strim Shivaramaganaga Dattaya Namaha.
Here is a sample of Sri Swamiji's music. Swamiji teaches and heals through music, speeches, stories, jokes, and poems. He reaches people through public programs, private house visits, television appearances, radio talks, books, CDs, DVDs, and the monthly magazine Bhakti Mala, which means a garland of devotion. He interacts with children, adults, the rich and the poor, the scholarly and the illiterate, with equal ease and intimacy. He frequently appears to people even before they have met him in their dreams. Swamiji inspires one to wonder and marvel at this creation and to learn from it. With short, simple, picturesque images, he lifts our minds to lofty heights. Here are samples of Swamiji's short, sweet, but sometimes stinging poems.
Within the seed is hidden a huge big tree, and within the tree is hidden, atom-like, a little seed. The entire universe is concealed in the tiny, subtle matter, and this is a wonder. God of gods, Sachchidananda, Lord of true bliss, eternal. You find yesterday's things boring today, and today's things are boring tomorrow. Bored and dead bored. You want novelty, fresh. but the fresh becomes stale again, and bored you are. It is like saying that breathing is a bore, but when the nose gets blocked, then you'll see what it is. Sachchidananda, Lord of true bliss, eternal.
Swamiji tells us that the pleasures of this world are illusory. Only truth endures. The transient pleasures and attachments of this world do not give us lasting happiness. In the frenzy of satisfying unending desires, one gets in an endless cycle of joys and sorrows, births and deaths.
Guru means Lord Shiva. Because Shiva, he is formless, invisible. That is why we are worshipping Shivalingam. Shivalingam means no form. He is everywhere. Guru sound is not a Hindu sound. Guru means knowledge. Guru means Satyam, truth. Guru means Dharma. Guru means creation. Guru means protector. Guru means destroyer of all our sins and confusion. The leader of knowledge, the leader of devotion. Finally, the leader of Nada, sounds. Nada Yogi. We calling Shiva is Nada Yogi. First disciple, Mother Goddess.
Swamiji disentangles us from our attachment to worldly experiences. It is not possible for a human being to gain mastery over his sense organs without the help of a Sadguru, nor is it possible to gain mastery over the mind. Swamiji gives us the strength to control our desires and to overcome our anger, greed, delusion, vanity, arrogance, and jealousy. He holds our hand and leads us step by step till we are set free from our slavery to temptations and bondages. Swamiji prays with fervor along with Hindus, Christians, Muslims, Jains, Jews, Sikhs, Buddhists, and those of other faiths. Swamiji urges a Christian to become a more ardent Christian and a Muslim to become a more devout Muslim. He believes that one ought to remain faithful to one's own tradition and set of beliefs. The Dalai Lama has visited Swamiji at his ashram in Mysore. So have numerous other leaders of religious and spiritual groups. Swamiji worships the Shri Chakra, a three-dimensional representation of creation. Since he was born in the Hindu tradition, Swamiji maintains his Hindu heritage. He worships all the Hindu deities who represent the various energies in creation, which all abide by the will of the one God eternal. Swamiji has composed a prayer in the Sanskrit language that expresses the universality of his approach. It is chanted every day in all the branches of his ashram all over the world. This is what it means. Shiva and Vishnu, Ganesh the Omkar, Skanda and Devi, effulgent sun god, all these are your forms, without any doubt. I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. It is by your grace sun shines upon us. It is by your law windows upon us. It is by your wish elements exist. I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. You are the water, fire, earth, and air too. You are the space that we all come into. You are the time and you are the sound too. I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. Inside a jungle, top of a mountain, banks of a river, middle of the ocean, at my own altar, wherever I pray, I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. You are the doer, you are the cleanser, you are the one who feeds all the three worlds. You are the hero of all the scriptures. I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. Allah is your name, Buddha is your name, Jesus is your name, Jina is your name. When people call God, you always answer, I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. Bible and Quran extol your virtues, Shastras, Puranas, Vedas adore you. All the world's religions describe the one God. I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. Service in churches, namaz in masjids, pujas in temples, prayers in synagogues, all praise and worship, one God eternal. I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. Your names are countless, your forms are infinite, glories unequaled, you're omnipresent, you're omnipotent, and you're omniscient. I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. I seek refuge in Sachchidananda. Swamiji's ashram is known as Avadhuta Datta Peetham. The main ashram is in Mysore, India, in the state of Karnataka. It is very beautiful and unique. It is like heaven on earth. Swamiji refers to the universal prayer hall there as the crown of his ashram. People from all faiths gather under its beautiful roof to follow the universal religion of humanity and eternal truth, and to worship the one God who created us all. One of the most beautiful auditoriums in the world, Nada Mandapam, seats 8,000 people. In it is a shrine built for the 7 musical notes. Swamiji declares that music is his religion, music is his language, and music is his expression. The towering sculpture of Mulikeshwara, the presiding deity of herbal healing that frees addicts from their addictions, adorns Swamiji's bonsai garden, which is the largest in the Indian subcontinent. Swamiji promotes with zeal the preservation of our flora and fauna. The ashram houses a deer park and a bird sanctuary. Swamiji has made foreign trips. His first foreign tour took place in 1976. He has visited almost all the countries in the world, spreading his spiritual message of peace, the oneness of God, and universal brotherhood. Here are a few of Sri Swamiji's sayings. Remember that God is your only true friend. Enjoy your wealth by sharing it with others. Always remain contented. Lead a simple life. Give up ostentation. Do not ask God for anything. Constantly remember and praise God. While there is health and strength in the body, strive to free yourself from the cycle of birth and death. Show courage when faced with difficulties. Patience is the greatest penance. Never compromise on your morals. Show kindness towards all beings. Swamiji has been giving healing music concerts for over 20 years. He has world-renowned musicians accompanying him. Swamiji has developed a unique system of Kriya Yoga that blends breath control, mind control, body control, and spiritual wisdom. The Kriya Yoga that is taught in all the branches of the ashram helps immensely to calm and steady the mind, maintain physical health, and promote spiritual progress. Swamiji personally trains the instructors. Swamiji builds shelters for the homeless and the aged. He runs orphanages and schools, including one for the communications impaired. He gives to those in need during crisis and natural disasters. He helps the handicapped. Every year during his birthday celebrations, Swamiji felicitates individuals from many countries who have excelled in different areas that help humanity. Swamiji promotes Ayurveda, the ancient science of herbal healing alongside modern medicine. He gives music therapy, gem therapy, and Homa therapy. He runs a holistic healing center in the ashram. Swamiji educates the public about Homa, the fire ritual. Homa benefits individuals, the entire planet Earth, and also the cosmic regions. The sacred syllables of the mantras through their powerful sound vibrations and the sacred smoke with its positively charged energy clear the atmosphere of toxins, purify the air we breathe, and enrich the rain that nourishes the earth, which in turn produces nobler human beings. Swamiji keeps alive the eternal universal truths contained in the Vedas, ancient works that are revelations from celestial seers. He runs Veda schools and conducts annual examinations in all the 4 Vedas. He runs I Serve, an institution that promotes scientific research into the Vedas. Swamiji inspires selfless service. The volunteer organization at the ashram conducts many humanitarian activities, including free medical camps, blood drives, feeding the hungry, and helping in times of natural disasters. Swamiji encourages people to develop faith and devotion. The concentration and discipline that result from daily prayer are essential to every individual, Swamiji says. He has built close to 100 temples to Dattatreya, the universal spiritual guru. Datta is the presiding deity at all of Swamiji's ashrams. Swamiji has built a beautiful temple in Mysore for Balaji, the Lord of Tirupati. The deity is known as Sri Datta Venkateshwara. Swamiji has beautiful ashrams in the United States, Trinidad, Canada, UK, Germany, Malaysia, and Australia, and over 100 ashram branches spread all over India. In Pennsylvania, in the United States, Swamiji had discovered 3 powerful healing rocks. He built a sanctuary there called the Jesus Datta Retreat Center. The Datta Temple and Hall of Trinity was built in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The Datta Yoga Center USA coordinates all the activities in North America. Sri Datta Vijayananda Tirtha Swamiji, the successor to Swamiji, has been receiving training in the ashram since he was 7 years old. He has mastered the scriptures and gives regular spiritual discourses. He assists Swamiji in his global spiritual mission in the Datta tradition. To answer the question why Datta has chosen to be born as a human being, Swamiji gives the following explanation. If God chisels a sculpture in heaven and drops it down to earth, people would have no clue as to how the sculpture came into being. But if man had to go to a mountain, remove out of it a rough piece of rock, carry the heavy burden back, and then spend grueling years carving a sculpture out of it, those who witnessed this effort would know the history of the sculpture. They would know of the hammering and the chiseling that the piece of rock had to suffer before it became perfect. Swamiji's brief biography that follows describes how he evolved into the perfect being that he is, the intense training that he received, and the severity of the penance that he performed. Chapter 3. Swamiji's birth. Jayalakshmi was a special child. She had a spiritual fervor about her. She spent several hours each day in prayer and contemplation. She sang sweetly, highly poetic, devotional songs, many of which she composed herself.
Jaya Ganesha Gananath Dayanidhi Sakala Vighna Kar Dur Hamare.
Jayalakshmi worshipped Ganapathy, the elephant-headed god, who is a representation of the primal sound Om, which is the source of all creation.
Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.
She spent her late teenage years living with her family in the sacred woods near Sangama in the southern state of Karnataka in India. It is a sacred region in the vicinity of the confluence of the 3 rivers, Kaveri, Arkavati, and Guptagamini. There are 3 holy hills there that form the shape of the sacred pyramid Sri Chakra. Jayalakshmi moved among the hills, the rivers, and the animals with a free abandon, merging with Mother Nature. Her companions were spiritual adepts and holy men. She experienced a communion with Datta one day in a cave among the holy hills near Mekedatu. Datta said to her that he would be born to her as her son to propagate truth in the world.
To meet the needs of the time, I have to take on a body and follow a plan of action to establish Dharma permanently on this earth. It has to be an avatara that would be easily approachable to all and would be around on a long term.
She received the same message a few days later from her spiritual mentors, Karapatra Swami and Fakir Tata. They told her that her spiritual training was now completed. Jayalakshmi pondered over the responsibility placed upon her and prepared to fully surrender to the divine will. Datta appeared to her one day at the temple of Lord Sangameshwara and said,
Mother, the Brahmin who comes to your house before tomorrow morning will be your husband.
Under the strangest and the most unexpected of circumstances, her wilderness home played host to the scholarly priest Narasimha Shastri that very same night. The middle-aged widower got stranded in the jungle along with his widowed sister while on a pilgrimage tour of South India and sought shelter for the night at Linganna's home. Jayalakshmi, the daughter of Linganna and Savitramma, married Gandluru Narasimha Shastri and moved to Bommeparthi village near Anantapur in the state of Andhra Pradesh. A couple of years later, she went home to her parents to have her first child. On May 26, 1942, in the Indian year Chitra Bhanu, as was her daily custom, Jayalakshmi went in the pre-dawn auspicious hour to the holy river Kaveri and sat in meditation upon a rock that jutted out over the flowing waters. It was in the region of Brahmakundam, a deep rocky pit that was used, according to legend, by celestial sages for the performance of sacred fire rituals. Three things brought Jayalakshmi back to consciousness: the sunlight shining upon her face, an inexplicable fragrance that permeated the air, and the commotion of people around her. When Jayalakshmi opened her eyes, the sun was shining bright. A newborn baby boy lay in her lap, smeared from head to foot with vibhuti, the fragrant sacred ash. He had around his neck two necklaces, one of Rudraksha sacred beads and the other of Saligrama sacred stones, both strung in gold. The river had risen and the waters were gently flowing over the baby's feet. Jayalakshmi's mother, along with some tribal folk from the village, were getting ready to take her home in a makeshift carriage. As soon as the baby reached home and was placed on his bed, his necklaces disappeared. The baby was named Satyanarayana. He was born in the spiritual lineage of the celestial sage Bharadwaja. Chapter 4, Childhood. One day the grandmother Savitramma was carrying home from the village well a pot of water that splashed about as she walked. Satyanarayana, who was just a few months old, started to cry uncontrollably. When the sound of splashing water stopped, the crying stopped. Jayalakshmi at once diagnosed the problem.
This is not an ordinary child. This child is a musical genius. The sound from the pot of water is a little out of tune. He is not able to tolerate that disharmony. That is what is making him cry. This son of mine is going to enchant people all over the world with waves of divine music when he grows up.
In the vicinity of their wilderness home in Mekedatu, the grandparents Linganna and Savitramma witnessed the toddler Satyanarayana playing fearlessly with cheetah cubs, cobras, and wild apes. The child daringly performed feats when he was barely 5, such as manipulating a menacing cheetah to fall into a ravine to its death. A fully pregnant cow, Ganga, had once been kept back in the cowshed at Linganna's farm. Out of innocent pity, Satyanarayana took the liberty of taking the cow grazing along the river Kaveri that was in spate. When the cow lost its foothold and was dragged into the raging waters, Satyanarayana clung to its neck and rode the rapids and finally stepped ashore safely further along the way along with the cow. At that spot, the celestial sage Agastya met Satyanarayana and bestowed upon the child the gift of herbal healing. Satyanarayana displayed a stupendous capacity for memory. At Bommeparthi, which later was renamed Jayalakshmipuram, Satyanarayana lived next door to a temple to Hanuman, a representation of the universal life force in the form of breath and the principle of a total submission to the divine will. When he was barely old enough to talk, Satyanarayana one day boldly accosted a buffalo that went on a wild rampage in the village, goring and crushing people. He calmed it down with his stern but compassionate words.
You were a ferocious animal in your past 7 lives. Before that, you were a very bad person. You killed women, you killed children, you killed holy men. Are you not ashamed of yourself? All these people of the village are trying to kill you now because in your past lives you tormented them. Do you want to keep on committing sins so that your future lives will also be bad?
Although Jayalakshmi knew, and the maternal grandparents had an inkling of the precocity of the child, the severely short-tempered father Narasimha Shastri was totally blind to his child's spiritual talents. Noticing Satyanarayana's disinterest in formal schooling, he subjected him to the most painful and torturous punishments. Narasimha Shastri was completely unaware of his wife's spiritual prowess and of the secret and systematic spiritual instruction that Jayalakshmi was imparting to their beloved child. It was only in his old age that Narasimha Shastri recognized and acknowledged the spiritual stature of his son.
When he was only 5 years old, he held some raw rice in his fist and converted it into cooked rice. At about the same time, he put some sand in my hand and told me to eat it. It tasted like sugar. When he was about 10 years old, he stabbed his thigh with a sharp knife and not a drop of blood came out of the wound. I noticed him materializing some sweets from his school bag and giving to other kids. I took it to be a magic trick that he must have learned somewhere. He materialized a silver bracelet and gave it to me. How come I did not take it seriously?
He felt amazed at how blind he had been all along. Narasimha Shastri received spiritual guidance from Swamiji and eventually attained salvation. Chapter 5. Early Training. Jayalakshmi introduced to Satyanarayana the deepest spiritual truths even from his infancy. She sang to him lullabies containing the secrets of creation, explaining how all the energies in the cosmos worked together to keep the wheel of creation rolling in peace and harmony. She told him stories about the celestials. She taught him the subtle essence that lay hidden in the scriptures beneath the garb of words. She unraveled to him the mysteries of the universe. She taught him how to gain control over his mind by controlling his breath. She taught him the principles of how to be one with water when he was in water, to be one with air when he was in air, and to be one with fire while amidst fire. Satyanarayana had to practice and perfect these skills by his own effort. When he was about 10 years old, Satyanarayana skipped school one day and went with his friends to the village pool to go swimming. Pressed down into the water by his opponent in a swimming contest, Satyanarayana remained submerged for over half an hour.
There's fallen into the well.
Has fallen in the well? When did that happen? How did it happen?
The entire village ran to the pond to look for Satyanarayana. He was the son of their only priest, doctor and guru. The village decided that the son of the priest had drowned. Satyanarayana slowly surfaced with a smile on his face. Jayalakshmi taught Satyanarayana how to control his astral body so that he could travel places invisibly and with ease. She taught him yoga postures and the art of intense analysis. She would make short statements on deep spiritual topics and would let Satyanarayana develop the details.
Change itself is an illusion. It has always been that. That's not what you should be reflecting upon. You should meditate upon yourself. You should know yourself. That is the only way.
She would urge him to contemplate in silence until he found the answers himself to all the spiritual riddles that she placed before him.
my mother told me that when I was born, I had a Rudraksha necklace and a Saligrama necklace around my neck. She said that these were set in gold thread. If those were separate from my body, and if gold is a metal, well, my body has grown now. And if I had continued to have those necklaces on me, would they have grown along with my body? But metal is lifeless. It cannot grow. If it does not grow, and if I still had the necklaces on, then I would have been strangled as I grew up. This body of mine is made up of the 5 elements, and in itself this also is lifeless. How can it grow then? What is the meaning of growing? If the body is lifeless, how can one say that it grows? Oh, mind, don't confuse me. That which undergoes change has to have 2 parts, one that is constant and the other that undergoes change. How can that be?
Young Satyanarayana spent countless sleepless nights tossing in bed, trying to figure things out on his own.
There is no modification in the eternal truth. Whatever exists is unreal, but I am not able to understand the principle of this life force, of this soul in this life's journey. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I?
The question, who am I, troubled him the most. Jayalakshmi told Satyanarayana that he was Dattatreya and instructed him of the purpose of his human birth. She taught him powerful seed letter mantras that would place all the powers in existence in his palm. Jayalakshmi spelled out to him, step by step, his mission on earth.
My son, your path is a very difficult path. To help you, I will tell you certain maxims. Any woman you see me in her. Be compassionate towards those that are less fortunate. Whatever be your circumstance, strictly abide by the teachings of the scriptures. Even at the risk of your life, save a good soul. Know that all things are the same. See no differences. Regardless of inconvenience to yourself, maintain your prescribed routine. Ensure that it benefits others and does not cause any inconvenience. See my presence in everything. Never give up truth. Learn all the intricacies of divinity and develop the skill to teach others in a simple and entertaining manner. Do not declare to the world what your future incarnations will be. Propagate virtue and righteousness in a manner that is easily palatable. Even if it causes you suffering, make sure that others do not suffer because of you. These are the 12 rules to live by. Now you are fully initiated. After a 12-year cycle, your practice will become perfect and complete. May mankind benefit by your efforts.
Jayalakshmi gave spiritual initiation to Satyanarayana in the divine presence of Hanuman in the temple next door on the auspicious night of Shivratri when Satyanarayana was 11 years old. She transferred all of her spiritual powers to him. She gave him a piece of celestial rock known as Prashna Ganapathy, which would answer all his questions and guide him in his spiritual journey. She exhorted Satyanarayana that he should put in an intense effort to attain that highest spiritual state of Sahaja Samadhi, where he can be fully alert in conducting all worldly affairs, while at the same time be completely immersed in a state of undisturbed divine bliss. She placed upon him the responsibility of performing the marriages of his 2 younger sisters, Varalakshmi and Saraswati, as part of his training in worldly affairs. She left her body shortly thereafter. Satyanarayana's infant brother Kodandarama, who was barely a few weeks old, followed in his mother's footsteps. Chapter 6. Advanced Training. Satyanarayana found himself bereaved of his mother and abandoned by his father. The widowed Aunt Venkamma, Narasimha Shastri's older sister, took him and Varalakshmi under her wing. Saraswati was adopted by Jayalakshmi's younger sister Parvatamma, who was a childless widow living with her aged parents in Mysore. Venkamma was the caretaker of a Shiva temple in Produttur in Andhra Pradesh. She lived in a small room adjacent to the shrine. She was a woman of meager means. She was secretly a yogini of an exceptional stature. Venkamma continued the spiritual training of Satyanarayana where his mother had left off. While Jayalakshmi followed the path of Raja Yoga, Venkamma pursued Hatha Yoga. She put Satyanarayana on the strictest regimen.
Satyanarayana, from today I suggest that you eat only one meal a day. You need to realize that it is the food that we eat that nourishes the mind. The purity of food would depend on the thoughts of the person who prepares the food and the thoughts of the person who consumes the food.
Satyanarayana was a willing disciple and a quick learner. He slept on the bare floor with not even a sheet or a blanket. He woke up every day at 1 o'clock in the morning to learn his yoga lessons and to study the scriptures. At noon, Satyanarayana bathed, wore traditional garments and went begging for food at homes selected by his aunt. Of the food he collected, he first fed his sister Varalakshmi. Then he mixed all the rest of the food into one lump and made small portions. He distributed the morsels of food to all the mendicants lined up in front of the shrine. If any morsels were left, those would be his to eat. Some days he went without any food. Venkamma made Satyanarayana chew his food without relishing the taste. She taught Satyanarayana how to control his hunger and his taste buds. She made him run barefoot in the streets on hot summer days and would deny him water to drink. That's how she taught him to control his thirst. Venkamma denied him more than one set of clothes to possess. She made him borrow textbooks from friends and made him copy them with his own hands for his use. Satyanarayana used scrap pieces of paper collected from business owners to make notebooks out of them. Satyanarayana learned to overcome the greed for possessions. Venkamma was a stern disciplinarian. She was miserly in her praise. Satyanarayana accepted her authority without question. He knew that a strict discipline is a prerequisite to spiritual progress. Satyanarayana had no money, yet his mother had commanded him that he had to assist at least 4 students with their school fees or school supplies before he could pay for his own. He ran errands and worked part-time to earn what he could to fulfill this obligation with dedication. One day, Satyanarayana wanted to attend a circus, but had no money to purchase the ticket. He tried to sneak in with some other children. He was caught and punished. He found cash on the street the following day, enough for 2 tickets. But by then, he had overcome his desire for entertainment. Satyanarayana realized that life is nothing but an unending stream of desires. Fulfillment of one desire at once led to another desire. Eventually, all desires led to misery. He realized that true happiness lies in the conquest of desires. He understood that the power that money exercises on the human mind is phenomenal, and that, in fact, money is nothing but an extremely dominant mental concept. Satyanarayana's spiritual attainments manifested themselves as miraculous occurrences. They happened at school and at home, but went without attracting too much notice. Swami Abhedananda and Swami Yogendra Bharati, 2 holy men that Satyanarayana associated with in Produttur, recognized the divinity of the boy and predicted his magnificent future.
This boy is a Mahatma. He will be recognized as a very great man in the near future.
Venkamma taught Satyanarayana the Sama Veda, the 4th Veda that teaches the secret of sound. When she taught him the scriptures, she did not use stories or songs the way his mother did. Instead, she kept a collection of wooden fans, the handles of which she used to hit the child mercilessly until he felt satisfied with his lessons. Venkamma successfully trained Satyanarayana to disengage himself from all physical sensations. Venkamma knew that her life was soon going to end, and she needed to hurry to complete her yoga instruction to Satyanarayana. She hence resorted to an extremely risky procedure to make Satyanarayana experience the highest level of spiritual achievement. She pierced the yogic knot Lambika Nadi. When this procedure occurred, Satyanarayana at once ran out of the sanctum sanctorum of the Shiva temple. He reached the sacred flagpole of the temple and started climbing it like a lizard. But when he reached the top, he was seen floating in the air at the level of the bells of the flagpole. Venkama, who had been stricken with anxiety that her procedure might have failed, now heaved a sigh of relief. Besides having achieved the perfect state of bliss, he now also demonstrated his mastery in the skill of becoming one with air. Having successfully accomplished her final task, Venkama left her body. Satyanarayana spent his turbulent teenage years under the tutelage of his mother, who now guided him internally. There was no longer a physical guru. His favorite deity Ganapathy came to his aid whenever the need arose. Satyanarayana had yet to completely transcend his mind to become one with the highest spiritual energy. Narasimha Shastri was never cut out for raising children. He was a renunciant and a spiritual seeker in his own right. He sent the children to Linganna's home. Linganna was in no position to care for them. Satyanarayana was sent to live with an uncle. There was no one really to care for him. Satyanarayana used this indifference to his benefit by spending many hours each day in the nearby woods, engaging in secret spiritual exercises. A wild bear befriended him and brought him pieces of jackfruit every day to eat with honey. The friendship between them grew, but had to end abruptly when Satyanarayana fell seriously ill with mumps. Narasimha Shastri was sent for to come fetch his son and to get him medical treatment. Satyanarayana had to walk 6 miles each day to receive his medical treatment. Once he regained his health, Narasimha Shastri left the children in the care of Nanjundaya, his older son, born from his first marriage. Satyanarayana attended school in Anantapur. He spent his evenings in temples, developing his singing skills, storytelling skills, or attending religious discourses. He rigorously developed his powers of concentration by running along the narrow rims of wells and compound walls. He leapt across wells, gates, and balconies. In that arid region in the middle of summer, he dug a well overnight with the help of some of his peers as part of his spiritual training. Chapter 7. The 4 Cardinal Lessons. Conquest of Hate. Satyanarayana was falsely accused of stealing by his great aunt Ambamma, who despised him. He was punished severely. Satyanarayana got very angry, but he controlled himself. He then prided himself that he had conquered hate and anger. But in the internal churning that followed, Satyanarayana realized that whatever one experiences is what has been earned by oneself through one's own past deeds. No one else could be blamed for it but himself. If he had not earned it, regardless of how many evil persons there might be in the world, he would not have suffered the punishment. Satyanarayana felt ashamed of himself, that he gave himself the credit for forgiving his enemy when in truth one has no enemies. He realized also that human emotions are fickle and that praise and blame are both equally insignificant. Satyanarayana rejected the guardianship of his stepbrother Nanjundaya and left home. Conquest of Love. As Satyanarayana paced up and down a platform in the Anantapur railway station, a prosperous stranger accosted him affectionately by his name.
Satyanarayana, I know you.
Satyanarayana was surprised. The childless stranger befriended the youngster and showered immense love and kindness upon him. He confided to Satyanarayana secrets about his own high level of spiritual accomplishments. He begged the boy to become his adopted son. Satyanarayana, who was starved for love and attention, simply melted at the tenderness shown by the wealthy gentleman. He yielded to the tempting prospect of a life filled with love and prosperity. He boarded the train to accompany the business tycoon to Bombay. When the train reached the station of Guntakallu, meaning a deep pit, Satyanarayana suddenly saw the furious face of his mother Jayalakshmi and heard her stern voice reproaching him for his reckless abandon of duties. Shuddering with fright and shame, Satyanarayana jumped from the moving train, vowing never again to be led astray from his prescribed mission. He felt ashamed of himself for his lack of discretion regarding human love, since he knew that divine love is the only enduring love. Conquest of shame. Satyanarayana was suspected of stealing by his maternal uncle, who gave him shelter for a few days in Bangalore. No accusations were made against Satyanarayana. But Satyanarayana, who was innocent, noticed that the family members were locking up all their belongings as a precaution. He almost died with shame. But who was to be blamed? Satyanarayana realized that pain could be inflicted upon one if it was earned by one's karma, regardless of whether there was someone to inflict it or not. He left his uncle's home and moved on. Conquest of indifference. Satyanarayana took Varalakshmi with him to Mysore to his grandfather Lingana's home. Lingana's family was in a financial crisis and was not in a position to support the youngsters. Satyanarayana was sent to serve and live with an uncle who was a priest in a temple nearby. Satyanarayana served as the caretaker of the shrine of Ganapathy. He became an expert at decorating the deities. He was happy while he was at the temple. He spent many hours daily in contemplation and spiritual exercises as prescribed by his mother. He experienced many new spiritual insights. He danced in ecstasy in the sanctum sanctorum of the Mother Goddess, experiencing her immense grace. But in the physical world, no one cared whether he ate or slept or whether he even lived. One day, it dawned upon Satyanarayana that if neglect and indifference are troubling him, it is an indication that he has not yet perfected his sense of detachment. He felt elated at this revelation. Thereafter, he fully became detached and reveled in his newfound freedom from expectations. During his high school days in Mysore, Satyanarayana made every effort to develop his skills at public speaking and play acting. His teachers and friends were astonished at his flair for acting, public speaking, and singing. Satyanarayana joined a drama group in town to further develop his skills. He became proficient in stage decoration and public relations. He procured for the school events eminent speakers and scholars as chief guests. Satyanarayana taught yoga to youngsters and literacy to adults at night school to hone his teaching skills. Satyanarayana moved back to Lingana's house. Now he also had to assist in taking care of the cows, the milking, and the delivering of milk to clients, in addition to many of his other chores. It was imperative, as per tradition, that Satyanarayana be given the sacred thread before he grew to be an adult. He pleaded with his elders to have the ceremony performed. Upon his insistent demand, the ritual took place as an extremely frugal ceremony. However, to the astonishment of those that were present, Ganapathy, the elephant-headed deity, made his presence felt during the ritual and personally instructed Satyanarayana in the sacred hymns.
Dhyaye sthirena manasa ganesham sarvasiddhidam buddhi prakashakam purnam yoginam hridi samsthitam.
Ganapathy, his mentor and guide, told him that in order to be successful in his mission of propagating truth, Satyanarayana had to wear a suitable garb that would impress people. Chapter 8. A Swami. A match was settled for Varalakshmi's marriage. Narasimha Shastri gave some money. It was not enough. Satyanarayana borrowed money from every possible source to perform the wedding. He worked like a slave day and night to earn and save money to make all the necessary arrangements. The marriage was performed. The family drowned in debt. Satyanarayana failed his high school exam. He could not find a job. His aunt Parvatama had great affection for Satyanarayana and wished him success in life. She felt frustrated to see his irresponsible attitude.
How thick-skinned can you be? Do you have any idea how much we owe people? You are grown up now, but you act as if you have no brains.
Satyanarayana struggled hard to balance his spiritual and worldly lives. He would frequently sit simply staring into space and lose track of time. The family became burdened with chores that he left unfinished. Miracles were occurring very frequently. Diseases were getting cured with the mere application of the sacred ash given by Satyanarayana. Lost people and lost items were being found by following the clues given by him. Conflicts were getting settled. People began swarming his house, seeking favors from this young miracle man. But all this did nothing to help the family's finances. This barrage of visitors caused irritation to the family that lived in a cramped house. Satyanarayana's preoccupation with worship and meditation at all hours of day and night caused a lot of annoyance to the household.
If you don't stop your stupid pujas this minute, I am going to take those puja idols and throw them out.
They wished Satyanarayana would leave.
Go ahead and learn how a beggar lives.
Satyanarayana felt that he had all the powers that he needed to cure all the ills of the world. He saw untold suffering all around him. His heart burst with pity and compassion. He felt extremely impatient to begin using his spiritual powers for the benefit of mankind. He could not understand why his mother had told him that his spiritual training would be completed only when he was 24. He let out an intense cry of agony.
What this world consists of is nothing but problems. Even the smallest creature is burdened with a huge mountain of problems, an exploding volcano that erupts continuously, spitting out flames, molten lava, and fiery fumes. Crushed by the weight and scorched by the heat of this gigantic heap of troubles, if ordinary men commit an error, if they fall prey to the temptations of sensory organs, if they succumb to an addiction, is it their fault? Are they even capable of withstanding this pressure? Is it fair to make this creation so merciless and to make the mind so powerless and weak and then to mete out such drastic punishments? There is so much power here in me. Using this immense power, I could change the pattern of creation itself. I could destroy the sins of all the creatures with my immense storehouse of merit. All the beings could be bestowed with salvation. Why am I being forced to wait? To sit tight and not do anything? Why this miserliness? Why did Mother specifically tell me to wait till I was 24? Mother, I cannot bear this agony. Please, help me! Help me!
His prayer was answered. His mother told him to go take a dip in the holy waters of Lake Manasarovar in the Himalayas. Satyanarayana got on a train without purchasing a ticket. He switched trains as needed. He arrived in the capital city, New Delhi, looking like a beggar, in tattered clothes, worn and tired. While walking along a busy street, Satyanarayana found himself suddenly risking his life to save the life of a child that was about to get run over by a speeding truck. There was a huge commotion. Satyanarayana became an instant hero. The parents of the child insisted on expressing their gratitude by compensating him for his heroic act in some manner. Satyanarayana reluctantly agreed to let them make arrangements for his trip to the Himalayas. They felt overjoyed and treated him like a king. Satyanarayana felt a surge of relief. After he took a dip in the holy waters of Lake Manasarovar, his anguish subsided completely. He felt totally at peace. He realized the error in his attitude.
This is Mother's grace. There is now peace in thought, peace in word, and peace in action. Why did I not find this peace before? Yes, This is the reason. Regardless of the teachings of my gurus, now I recognize that my path was very similar to that of Vishwamitra, the egotist. Vishwamitra had to lose 4 times in his battles against desire, anger, mercy, and ego. I was also confronted with these 4 tests. In Produttur, when I started to develop an attachment to the sacred company of my aunt Venkamma and other spiritual seekers, my mother displaced me from there. She rescued me from the clutches of attachment. In Anantapur, I experienced wrath against my great aunt Ambamma. Mother blessed me with discretion and averted a dangerous situation. Then I fell for the sweet, tempting words of the businessman from Bombay. Again at Guntakallu, Mother rescued me. Yet I became arrogant that I had conquered anger. I succumbed to my ego. Mother saved me once again in Bangalore. I finally heaved a sigh of relief that I had climbed the last step, and then was faced with this test of overcoming my obsession to save the world. This was the most difficult step to climb. Mother told me even at the time of my initiation that the rise and fall of righteousness is an institution. Cold, heat, happiness, sorrow, righteousness, unrighteousness. All these have been created as pairs. It is impossible to remove just one of them. It is foolishness to imagine that one can remove unrighteousness from the world, that one can wash away all the sorrow, that one can give salvation instantaneously to every living being. Like Mother said, this is a wheel that has been set in motion by God. In this, it is very clear what role should be played by the consciousness that resides in each separate body. A person's thought process should abide by this divine will. Since I lacked this discrimination, I had to experience all that anguish and distress. Now, by the grace of Mother, my anguish and distress have been rooted out. The nature and attitude of egoistic Vishwamitra have been completely rooted out. In order for me to attain this state of perfection, Mother brought me all the way to Lake Manasarovar. Worry is Vishwamitra. Peace is Vasishtha. By my mother's compassion, Vishwamitra has now transformed into Vasishtha. This is peace, unbroken peace. Now there is peace all around.
Satyanarayana became absorbed in the enjoyment of the indescribable beauty of his surroundings in the Himalayan region. With a serene mind, he returned home. Chapter 9. An Avadhuta, a fully liberated one, ever existing in eternal truth. Satyanarayana moved in with an older bachelor friend who lived in Kesare, a neighborhood in Mysore. Satyanarayana wrote his high school exam again and passed. He found a part-time job in a local post office as an extra departmental delivery assistant for a measly salary. Satyanarayana's job was to carry heavy postal bags from one post office branch to another several miles away. An aged Muslim friend whose only son's life was saved earlier by Satyanarayana gifted to Satyanarayana a used bicycle to lessen his burden. But Satyanarayana insisted and paid him back for it fully in monthly installments. Eventually, he cleared all of his loans. Satyanarayana's miracles increased. His states of contemplation that led to samadhi, where he became unaware of his surroundings, began to increase in frequency and duration. The blessings he offered to people when he came out of samadhi were very effective. People began to swarm the post office, seeking favors from Satyanarayana. It became irksome to the post office officials. Satyanarayana resigned. Satyanarayana began to perform Homa very frequently. Since the most frequent Homa that he performed was Ganapati Homa, he began to be called Ganapathy Swami. He began to lead group sessions of devotional singing called bhajans. Neighbors and old friends came in large numbers to participate. One day, Satyanarayana went to the river Kaveri early in the morning before sunrise to take a holy dip. He remained underwater for 3 hours, lost in samadhi. When he stepped out of the waters, he found red silk clothing, a holy staff, and a pair of wooden sandals waiting for him. He wore them and returned home as Satyanarayana Swami, the holy man. Word spread far and wide about this youth that performed miracles. Invitations were extended to him to perform special rituals at various temples out of town and out of state. People invited him into their homes to offer worship to his holy feet. One day, in order to put to rest the doubts expressed by some devotees concerning his divinity, Satyanarayana Swami snapped with his bare hands a high-power electrical cable and absorbed a powerful electrical charge. It caused a blackout in the neighborhood. In response to an attack by a drunken and rowdy gang, Satyanarayana Swami walked out of his room that was locked from the outside by stepping right through the wall. A member of the royal family of Mysore once addressed Satyanarayana Swami as Swamiji. From then on, he became Swamiji to everyone. During Swamiji's visit to the southern state of Kerala, the devotees changed the name Satyanarayana spontaneously to Sachchidananda. Thereafter, Satyanarayana Swami came to be known as Sri Ganapathy Sachchidananda Swamiji. Swamiji revealed to his devotees one day the special significance of the sacred lines on the soles of his feet. He predicted that soon his sandals inscribed with these holy lines would become objects of worship. His prediction has come true. In June 1966, Swamiji moved into the new premises on the road to Nanjangud at the base of the holy Chamundi hill in Mysore. The Ganapathy Sachchidananda Ashram came into being. It was later renamed Avadhuta Datta Peetham. One day, Swamiji felt a strong urge to visit the sacred shrine at Sri Shailam in Andhra Pradesh. Accompanied by 2 of his devotees, Swamiji travelled by car to Sri Shailam. He reached there at sunrise. He briskly strode downhill to the holy river Krishnaveni and took a plunge. This was the spot where Sri Narasimha Saraswati, a previous incarnation of Dattatreya, 400 years ago, had relinquished his body. Swamiji remained underwater, engaged in an internal conversation with his predecessor. Swamiji had still felt a trace of separation from the supreme universal conscious energy. This troubled him and caused him to fear failure. The conversation dispelled his fear. Swamiji emerged from the waters looking divinely radiant. He now completely identified with the Supreme. His mind became a mere witness thereafter to the play of the divine force that fully occupied his frame. A circular raft came floating by, carrying new clothes. Swamiji put on the saffron robes and stepped ashore, declaring to his companions,
"This is the most important event in the life of Swamiji. In this body now resides a special consciousness that is endowed by divine grace. This consciousness is in control of the wheel of time all through creation. His name is Swamiji. It is Swamiji to you and to me as well."
He entered the ancient temple of Lord Mallikarjuna and meditated under the Audumbara tree that Dattatreya had made famous aeons ago.
This Audumbara tree under which we are sitting now is considered to be the form of Dattatreya. This body of mine has so far conducted spiritual penance for 24 years. This is now a turning point. This marks the beginning of a new cycle. This life is henceforth dedicated to the welfare of the universe.
On that day, Swamiji became an Avadhuta, a fully liberated one, ever existing in eternal truth. Swamiji returned to the ashram fully invigorated. The ashram grew rapidly. Those that helped Swamiji received help from him. Swamiji fell into deep and prolonged samadhi states. Sometimes his samadhi state lasted for a week. Often while singing the names of God, he would lose consciousness and reawaken several hours later. Sacred substances such as vibhuti, the sacred ash, or kumkum, the sacred red powder, would time and again stream out from his palm or the sole of his foot. Swamiji gradually reduced going into samadhi while in public. He attained that perfect state of sahaja samadhi where he is fully alert in conducting worldly affairs while at the same time is wholly immersed in his transcendental bliss. Swamiji got his second sister Saraswati married with the help of devotees from different states of India who treated the event as a wedding in their own family. Swamiji surrounds himself with children with whom he plays and frolics in innocent fun. At the same time, he trains them in yoga, music, and other spiritual disciplines. Many children and adults stay in his ashrams, serving Swamiji. One day while Swamiji was at the river Kaveri with the children, musical instruments such as a sitar, tablas, harmonium, and cymbals came floating on the waves. The children grabbed them with excitement and brought them ashore. These provided Swamiji a new pastime at the ashram. He quickly became proficient in playing the various musical instruments. He spent hours practicing his vocal skills to perfect his rendering of the musical notes. He mastered the Raga Ragini Vidya, a celestial musical system that has physical and spiritual healing properties. Swamiji's passion for music became well known. Well-versed musicians often came to perform in his presence, seeking blessings. Music concerts during religious rituals and on festive occasions have become a common feature at the ashram. Swamiji began composing bhajans in different languages. He has composed thousands of bhajans. Some bhajans are purely devotional, and some are rich in spiritual wisdom and poetic excellence. Swamiji's bhajans have a healing effect. They prevent mishaps and lessen the severity of crisis. Swamiji quickly developed his musical skills to concert quality. He found the electronic synthesizer to be the most versatile instrument for his purpose because it can simulate the sounds of several musical instruments. He sings along sometimes during his healing music concerts, allowing the sound of his rich voice to enhance the healing effect. Swamiji's travels overseas and all over India have increased over the years. His commitment to help distraught souls find their purpose in life is benefiting thousands of people in every country that he visits. Many advanced spiritual seekers faced with hurdles in their path receive Swamiji's guidance. Ascetics of the highest order solicit Swamiji's help in clearing their doubts. Swamiji effortlessly provides relief to those that are afflicted with evil spirits. His healing music concerts are curing all kinds of ailments, from headaches to brain tumors. His bhajan and prayer CDs are bringing peace and harmony to countless homes. Students are improving their focus and memory from singing Swamiji's bhajans. Personalities are getting transformed. The miserly are sharing their wealth. The selfish are showing consideration. The wicked are becoming wise. The ill are getting well. The worldly are turning spiritual. Desires, demands, and distress are diminishing. Lives are getting enriched with peace and contentment. Swamiji's positive influence is spreading in all directions, like the brilliant rays of the sun, reaching the far corners of the earth touching even the humblest in creation. Jai Gurudatta, Shri Gurudatta.
Sadgurustavam.
Siddhi Buddhi Mahayoga Varaniyo Ganadhipaha Yasvayam Sachchidanandam Sadgurum Tam Namamyaham Yasya Dattatreya Bhavo Bhakta Namatmadanataha Suchate Sachchidanandam Sadgurum Tam Namamyaham Yoga Jyotis Samuddiktam Jaya Lakshmi Nrisimhayo Advayam Sachchidanandam Sadgurum Tam Namamyaham Yoga Vidya Chitrabhanum Chitrabhanu Sharadbhavam Jnanadam Sachchidanandam Sadgurum Tam Namamyaham Ganesha Hometadine Nityam Shri Chakra Pujane Dikshitam Sachchidanandam Sadgurum Tam Namamyaham Agastya Muni Sankranta Nana Vaidya Durandharam Bhavagram Sachchidanandam Sadgurum Tam Namamyaham Vadyodanchad Divyanama Sankirtana Kalanidhim Nadabhim Sachchidanandam Sadgurum Tam Namamyaham Tattapithadhipam Dharma Rakshanopaya Bandhuram Sakkavim Sachchidanandam Sadgurum Tam Namamyaham Viduta Bhakta Sammoham Avadhutam Jagadgurum Swashrayam Sachchidanandam Sadgurum Tam Namamyaham Sadhutvam Bhakti Maishwaryam Dhanam Yogamarogatam Sanmatim Jnanamanandam Sadgurustavato Labhet Sri Ganeshaya Namaha Sri Saraswatyai Namaha Sripada Vallabha Narasimha Saraswati Sri Gurudattatreya Namaha Kayena vacha manasendriyaiva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat karomi yadya sakalam parasmai Sri Sachchidananda pade payami.
Jai Gurudatta.